Right, so we are live on Facebook. Welcome to Warrior Women in Business episode 33. I can't believe we've come this far. so, so I'm very excited for today's guest beyond belief. I think everyone that understands the mission of Warrior Women in Business have probably wanted to speak with Julie Lerner at some point. So let me introduce myself for those of you that are new to Warrior Women in Business on this snowy day in New York City. We're very excited to have you on and thank you for joining us today. And if you're not familiar with Warrior Women in Business, I'd just like to give a little brief about who we are, our mission, where we've come from, and where we're going. So again, my name is Jasmine Sandler, and just so you know, just a short bit about me. I've been in digital marketing and media for a very long time. And I noticed around 2010, 2011, that more and more women were attending my events or attending conferences that I was a part of. And I saw this like mass influx of female entrepreneurship, of which I am one. So I fast forward to 2017, I started to think about this Warrior Women in Business brand and launched a conference called Brand You under the Warrior Women in Business brand. From the conference, there was a lot of interest from female entrepreneurs, everyone from young startups to female business students to what we have now, which are female executives turning into entrepreneurs. They really wanted to understand how to do it in a successful way. And more importantly, have the mentorship and support that they needed. So with that being said, I launched a Warrior Women in Business podcast. We're on episode 33 today, but it's come a very long way from the mission of really bringing together women that have been there and done that to female entrepreneurs, kind of cross spectrum and cross industry, to running events and having and working with like the New York City Mayor's Office against domestic violence to really bring together women to support initiatives that we care about, to come together in a very non-competitive, collaborative way to support each other in our business growth. So we have the podcast, which Julie's on today. We also have warriorwomenbusiness.com, which is a site where you can get access to great mentors and coaches across the female entrepreneurship journey. I'll put it that way. We have events and we have a whole, as you can see behind me, fashion brand and lifestyle brand. It's all about how do we empower women from, her business to her home to what she wears and how she feels about herself. So it's pretty cool. I'm very excited about where it's come. So for today's purposes, we've had podcast guests from all areas of entrepreneurship, but we've never had a woman on that it is in a field that traditionally I feel, my brother's in finance, more of a male-dominated industry, which is, investing, venture capitalism, angel investing. So I begged and pleaded Julie to be on, and here she is today. So I'm just going to give a quick bio, and then we're going to jump into questions so she can talk about what she does more than I know, and I can learn from her. And then we're going to go to Q&A around the 3:40, 3:45 mark. So any of you that are on Facebook Live, please feel free to just put in your questions as we go along. So just starting with Julie's bio. So Julie is an angel investor. And actually the reason I found Julie in the first place is I heard about this all female angel investor company called 37 Angels here in New York. And I started to dig into them because at the time I had a client that I was helping, to get to the level of investing, the branding work. And I was like, wow, this company is really amazing. I looked at some of their portfolio of clients that they fund and who's behind it. And I found Julie, and, she honestly, Julie, a great story. She's an angel investor. She's also the founder of the Failure Report, which we're going to talk about today, which is a resource for all of you female entrepreneurs out there that have failed, of which I have about 1,500 times now, and we all do. But it's what do we learn from those failures and how do we move forward, right? So Julie's going to talk about that. It's a blog to helping early stage startups avoid potential pitfalls with the advice from successful entrepreneurs and investors. She's also on the board of the Lower Eastside Girls Club, which I'd love to hear about today. This club offers programs in arts, sciences, leadership, entrepreneurship, and wellness for girls in middle school, and helps to break the cycle of poverty, which is a problem by training the next generation of ethical and entrepreneurial leaders. She is an avid traveler, and I actually was like looking where she traveled. I was like, wow, I want to hear all about that. Has been to all 50 states, all 7 continents, and 80 countries. She's been a member of 37 Angels since 2016. So with all that mouthful of things being said, welcome to Warrior Women in Business, Julie. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Taking the time to come here today. So I wanted to start off with talking about angel investing for female startups. You're clearly dedicated to this journey. And honestly, in my world of working with female startups forever now, there's a lot of education that needs to be done that women really don't know about. So for those warrior women in business that maybe have a brand new startup, whether they are young or older and reinventing themselves, tell us what are some of the top line things that they should expect once they commit to going for angel investing?
So it's super hard. You have to make a commitment because, as we said, I get involved with the Fail Report blog because a lot of investors don't make it. And if you don't make it first time or second time, like I didn't, you can certainly keep going, but you need to obviously be committed. And if you can keep your day job while you're building your company, we really recommend that. You can go it alone. We do have solo founders, but it can be easier if you have a team as you're going. And the idea is, right out of the bat, it's like, if I make this, they'll buy it. And that's not the case always time. So the whole beginning process is a proof of concept. I have this kind of cookie company, people coming to the cookie company. And if I market it this way, people come. If I market it this way, people don't come. So it's a whole kind of building process.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like what you said. So can you talk about, I want to highlight what you said about the team. Mm-hmm. So how important is it for a female startup, solopreneur, or maybe 2 partners, right? How important is it for them to identify and build a team pre-investing with the intention of keeping that team on? Can you talk about the team, the structure of the team, how they might do that?
As I said, it's super hard doing it alone. We do have companies that are solo founders. So identifying a person, that'll be not necessarily your co-founder or the founder. They can be the CMO or COO or whatever the case may be. So it's a matter of, it's easier when you kind of come together. You kind of have that, the old school garage moment. You're creating something in the garage. So you're
of course
together. I had a startup, and it was a marketplace for jobs in the restaurant industry. Mm-hmm. So we did not have a technical person on our team, so we were outsourcing tech, and that we ran into problems because it was expensive. Yeah. And you think like this feature is going to work, and it doesn't. So then you have to recode and so forth. So finding those people, or finding people that you can bring on a kind of a temporary basis.
Okay. So what are some things what are like the 3 to 5 things, if you're just thinking about this and you're just thinking, okay, I want to eventually pitch, what are 3 to 5 things that you would say that somebody would need to prepare, like a little bit of a checklist to get them started?
Okay. So, the first level tends to be friends and family, and you may just have an idea on a napkin. And that's okay. When you're going to go in front of an angel investing group, you need to have some amount of traction. When we look at companies that have lifetime 50,000 to 500,000 in sales. So actually that's going to take a little bit of time to go, or they have a significant pipeline. It's a SaaS program, and they have commitments or interest from a lot of companies, a significant amount of companies. But of course, we like to see actual dollar sales.
Okay. So in that, is there an average length of time where a company comes to you? Like, what's a sweet spot? So, you have these metrics, right? So 50,000 in sales, or maybe a pipeline for those of you that are watching. Maybe it's a pipeline of contracts to do business, right?
Right.
Right. That's what you're saying. So, just so people can start thinking about a timeline, is there an average that you've seen in your experience where it takes a company to get there to present in the right way? Like, is it a year, 2 years, or does it vary?
I'm going to signal actually Shark Tank, because I don't know exactly the companies that come to us that pitch with 37 Angels.
Oh,
They don't necessarily like if you've been, had an idea from 5 years ago. They like it to be kind of a sooner process so that you're working fairly quickly. But at the same time, I recommend, don't quit your day job until you have something that's really could be viable.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense, especially now, especially in 2020. And Julie, that's what I'm seeing right now. That's why I'm asking these questions, and there might be hard questions, but it's just a time where I'm seeing in my work where women are, there's just so much downsizing happening, right? So some people can't keep their day jobs and they're looking to go off on their own.
Yes.
So it's, so that's why I'm asking these questions, because this is a big question.
So in that case, I'm a huge fan of incubators or accelerators. And we have a tremendous resource center on the 37 Angels, 37angels.com website. And you just go into resources. And they're
Perfect.
listing, a ton of different incubators, accelerators that may be in the food space or a different space, or maybe oriented to women, so forth.
Okay, can you talk about incubators for those that don't know what that means?
The idea is that you have a very early idea, and then you go in, you generally have to pitch to get into these groups, but then you kind of can test out kind of the whole idea. And again, the whole thing is this really a business? And sometimes they offer funding, early stage funding, money, or they can get you into pitch contests that you can, get some money to further grow. And also contacts. Contacts are very important.
Very important.
So they can introduce you, to kind of all different resources. So it's like a school for entrepreneurship, essentially.
Okay. And is it focused on any one industry or
some are
cross industry?
Some are general. I do a lot of work with Columbia Business Schools. And it's kind of all different companies, but they're very kind of specific to, as I said, to food, to tech platforms, maybe from different areas of the country. Have startups that have incubators rather.
Okay, got it. All right, so let's talk about the failure report. Yeah. So, you share advice on failing to succeeding. Can you share what's the intention of this blog and where specifically do you focus? Like, who do you help with the blog? To talk about that a little bit.
Really early stage entrepreneurs. So I worked in the trade association for the restaurant industry, and then I went to business school in France, and then I came back and tried my hand at a couple startups on my own, and then with a partner. And it is the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing in the world to actually build something and grow it. And I think I was very kind of naive, and also I'm not so young. People come out of college, they're 22, and they can start something, and they can fail early. I think if I was of the generation behind me, or 2 generations behind me, I would have got my failing early. So that's why I switched over to angel investing, so I could, take what I've learned. And also I realized that there's a lot of learning. So I talked to some pretty high profile folks, like Tate's Cookies, which sold for $500,000, and also different investor groups. So they're seeing so the idea is what not to do. So, I don't know, things to do. The idea is where they had failings. So you can, get, information about things to avoid as you grow your company.
Yeah, it's really important. So, I know I've been an entrepreneur forever, so believe me, I understand. So, this topic of failing, right? It's been around since before the podcast. I was like, okay, who's failed 1,000,000 times? Where did this actually start?
And I have to have failed if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, really anyone in life, but especially if you're an entrepreneur. They generally, it's not right out of the bat that, they have a home run sometimes. Not always.
Yeah, it's sometimes I don't know if you agree. I honestly I haven't found the answer yet. So I haven't. So I don't know if some people say, well, it's, because this is my third business. And so some people say, well, it's luck, timing, and knowledge, or like a combination of the three. I don't know what that secret science is. So I don't know
There's no secret science, and it's interesting you bring that up because I'm in the process of writing a letter to Guy Raz, who has a fabulous podcast, How I Built This, and I really recommend it. I recommend the Pitch podcast and How I Built This.
Right.
And at the end, he's obviously people who are incredibly successful. In the end, he asks, was your success due to, hard work and drive and smarts, or luck? And I hate that question. There is no luck in entrepreneurship. There may be opportunities.
I haven't had any. No, I'm kidding.
But I hate that question. Like in the midst of writing him a letter, and my father was a very successful entrepreneur. I asked him the question, and he's like, "No, there's no luck because it's so hard and it takes so much drive and smarts and just really grit and the determination not to give up, perseverance, really at the end of the day." So there may be opportunities, but the person who's successful sees those opportunities and can capitalize on those opportunities. And 99% of us cannot. So I'm not a big fan of it. So I think perseverance really, because you're going to start something and you may have some success, but there's going to be, a kink. And you're going to have to iterate, you're going to have to fix, you're going to have to change something to keep building along. And it can be a very long process. So to perseverance and not to give up, and kind of a true grit is, I think, is the ultimate, of these type of people, the ultimate character.
Yeah, I know, I agree. It's that is what it takes. And also, can you talk a little bit about in that? So a lot of entrepreneurs, how do they know they're going down the right path with their business in that perseverance or grit? I know that's a loaded, broad question, but everybody has a different answer. I mean, I would answer that differently, but tell me what you think.
It goes back to, kind of at very early stage is this, product, what we call product market fit. Do people want to buy the product that I am creating? And if you keep going like a year and you're really not getting a lot of interest, that's not the product. And don't be afraid to fail and fail quickly. I talked to an investor and he says that all the time. Like, if it's not working, cut your losses and move on to the next thing. Or maybe entrepreneurship is not for you. So you go and, you get a job.
Okay, a job, right? That's the versus job versus entrepreneurship. So what few things should a female entrepreneur not do to lessen the chances of failing, assuming that they have the right product and they have a good market demand, but they're trying to make it. So what should they not do?
I hate to say it, but don't be afraid to be like male entrepreneurs, because they can be very different. I'm invested in a bakery called Ovenly. They're in Brooklyn. They have 5 locations, and of course, this year has really taken them to task. But they're doing okay. They're hanging in there. And the founder's she would go to a pitch competition, and the guy would be like, he would have an idea on a paper, very little traction, and say, yeah, I'm going to do this and this. I'm going to do $5 million next year. And the founders of Unbelievable, they were very conservative in, what they asked, which I think is better. But guess who got the funding? Would be the guy. And the girl. So kind of being a little bit bullish, and also, don't things very little things like don't say you're sorry. I work on that all the time, because women tend to say, I'm sorry. So kind of adding a little bit of, badass into your routine. And it's not easy. But we are all kinds of stories. It still goes on. In how men perceive women. And, we just had Dr. Biden, and someone wrote a op-ed about she should not say doctor.
Really?
Yeah, New York Times, terrible. Like I'm
That's
like,
terrible. I didn't even know that.
he was a professor, not recently I went to Northwestern at Northwestern, and
Mhm.
Northwestern wrote a very like strict letter, but we're still dealing with this misogynist kind of with this sexism. So it is tough, but just kind of seeing straightforward with the path and not be distracted by those things.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that, about maybe the growth, if you have any numbers in terms of women receiving investing versus men, and talk a little bit about in that, like, what 37 Angels has seen, just so we understand a little bit
But
further.
overall, it is really not a good number. And
Oh,
it's really unbelievable because in my 4.5 years of angel investing, I've seen a ton of female founders. So female founders are getting only 3%
oh
of
my
the total
gosh.
pie of funding. And it's moved a little bit, but like hardly at all. And especially this year because people like there's a lot of money and there's a lot of investing, but they see it as like a little bit of a risk, which is not the case because
Yeah.
when you have a female founder as part of a group, of the founders, they do better than all male teams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we have a long way to going, and we're kind of addressing these things. How I talked about how men perceive women. Women tend maybe not to think as big as men, and that's fine because maybe
Yeah.
they just want to have a lifestyle business. Maybe they want to have clothing store, and then they open up another clothing store or whatever the case, and it's a great business for them. But it wouldn't be something that would be interesting for an outside investor to get involved in because we're looking for to grow and scale and then hopefully exit to somebody else. Or I don't think at our stage we're going to see an IPO, but you never know.
Yeah.
A company that we invested in.
No, I understand that.
Yeah. So we're 85 women.
Oh.
I know it's 37 angels. So
No, I didn't know. I had no idea that there were so many. That's great.
So Angela Lee is a professor at Columbia Business School.
Mhm.
And when she started she was like wanted to do the balance. So she named it 37 angels. So to get another 17%. So it would be 50-50 as far as the amount.
Interesting.
So but yeah, so we're much bigger than what the name implies. And she wanted to get more women into investing with the idea if there's more women investing, there's going to be more female founded companies, that are going to get invested.
That makes sense. So are they looking for more investors now? Is there a process for women that want to become investors?
So we have a boot camp. And that I'm not sure if I think probably like 3 times a year. So I was at a boot camp from 2016, and it's great. She's very much a teacher. And if anyone's interested in finding out about the boot camp, again, it's on 37angels.com. And you have a whole like weekend where you're learning the basics, and then we have a pitch form, and then you learn how to do a diligence memo, which is you're looking at all features, the team, the product, the progress, the price, and so it's a very extensive memo that we do.
Excellent. Okay. So how can female startups find support besides Warrior Women in Business, of course, and all the other women's organizations that we support when it comes to teaming if they aren't yet qualified for an investment? Like you mentioned incubators. Are there any other resources if someone is preparing for angel investing? Just any other resources that you can think of sharing?
Again, I jotted down a few, but there's a ton. I forget to look at our own website. I'm like, wow, we have like a ton of information.
All right.
And also, information about, kind of branding companies and so forth. So you can really, find a lot of information there. And then the city has something called SCORE. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah, SCORE's been around a long time. I actually do a lot of talks for all these different groups, and I know that they're embracing, for example, SBA women. I've spoke for them several times. They're more embracing women as they grow. So I think they're very supportive, and they're they're trying their best to be educational, but also liaise with commercial organizations.
Right. Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think that's good for women to take advantage of and learn about.
So it's good. We're all moving in that direction, and then also in the diversity. We're moving diversity, and there's opportunities, there's accelerators and incubators, to create diversity among startups.
Okay, got it. So talk to us about like the founder report, the failure report rather. Talk to us a little bit about what to expect as you grow that or you build that out. Like some ideas.
Sure.
What you're doing there.
It's basically, there's nothing that I'm monetizing. It's good for people to read, and it's great for me to be a better mentor as I move along, because there's like just a ton of great information. So it's not so much a business as it's just more of a blog. I really do the business.
Oh, I see.
In the investing.
Okay, got it. So what, like, as we move forward into 2021, everybody is hopeful. I'll put it that way.
I'm very hopeful.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you are. Me too. I'm hopeful. I actually think 2020 has been a rough year, but it's also given, I mean, this is another business that I own, right? And there's other women that have started new businesses during the pandemic.
Yeah, a lot of people start up, and the investment has not stopped. Maybe there was a little, like drop in March, but again, there's a lot of money in the stock market. People are investing. The rate has not stopped, and it's probably grown a little bit this year.
Okay, so what changes do you see, like from, let's say, now to the end of 2021 in terms of female investing? Like, what opportunities do you think that both female entrepreneurs and potential female investors that may be watching us today should be aware of?
Okay, well, definitely anything that we can do on a Zoom, or home products, products in our home. If people are investing more in furniture and so forth, and making their home, better for them if they're spending more time in it. Any kind of, pet sites. I live in New York City. In my neighborhood, I think the pets have doubled.
Definitely tripled. This is crazy.
Anything along kind of healthcare, obviously, those type of things. I jotted down. Health and wellness, mental health is very big, and then gaming, and e-commerce, and anything delivery, which might be saturated at this point, but it's still, I think, growing.
Oh, I think e-commerce is certainly growing.
Yeah, delivery on that. Yeah, e-commerce for sure. And a lot of interesting things that will come out of this year, because things like maybe you have a small store, and you never really relied on kind of e-commerce. You did everything in the store, maybe had a little bit on your site. Now people had to build out their sites completely. Now, because maybe it's going to be 50-50.
Yeah. Well, April 27th, one of our coaches, who's a fashion designer, she actually helped me launch this Warrior Women brand, fashion brand. We're doing a Q&A on here, Warrior Women in Business, on e-commerce, SEO, and building a fashion brand, because a lot of women that I talk to have like an existing jewelry brand or existing some fashion related brand, but they haven't done they haven't gone into e-commerce, and that's what I've been doing forever. And I think it's just a very explosive opportunity that if you understand how to do it correctly, because I'm sure you're well aware there's thousands of platforms.
That's the platforms. And to that point, you can do a little modeling, not like modeling, but if you're looking, whatever the sector, and there's someone who has been successful in the sector, you can go and you kind of can get information. There's a lot of information about kind of their journey and how they started, and you can, model yourself, because obviously they rose to success. So getting a lot of information. A big fan of LinkedIn. It's good if you can use it to get warm introductions, but sometimes I do cold, and people do cold to me constantly every day. It just says angel investor. They don't know what type of angel investor or anything. I get bombarded. But so I'm a big fan of kind of creating your network on LinkedIn, And also, when we get back to having, panels and networks and pitch forums, whatever the case, go to those. And, I've created a network through that as well.
So can you talk about that, like what's coming up, both at 37 Angels and in general, that female entrepreneurs that are thinking about going for investing should be aware of this? Anything that's happening like in the next quarter?
I'm not sure anything, specifically besides what I mentioned as far as industries that are looking interesting to us. But yeah, as I said, things have been pretty consistent.
Okay, got it. And the parameters and qualifiers for a potential entrepreneur to go investing are on 37angels.com, right? For those listening.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's not, super early. As I said, you have an idea, generally you go to friends and family,
Yeah.
To get funding. But when you get past that and you're going to angel, for us personally, we're looking, as I said, someone who has revenue 50,000 to 500K, someone that's looking to raise about $500,000 to $2 million, valuations 3 to 8 million is kind of our sweet spot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So the term warrior women in business, I ask all my guests, what does it mean to you? When you hear it, and if you knew nothing about it.
I mean, really, to be a badass. Don't be
now you officially get a shirt.
Okay.
Because it is a badass. It's what it's supposed to be, a badass, because business is hard. And especially if you're a woman.
Don't be afraid to try anything. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't let people, tell you no, unless it's someone, that you really respect and doesn't think it is. But besides that, you're going to get a lot of no's, especially, if you're going for investment. I listen more to the podcast that I listen to, that how much time that takes, which is, taking you away from growing your business, depending on how big a team you have. Thank you for answering that. You definitely get a shirt, and I'm going to send you one. So,
but besides angel investing, right, for entrepreneurs, what other kind of bits of advice could you share with them on how they can best get there? Like anything that they should think about from a sales perspective, a partnership perspective, as they're building these businesses?
As I said, finding, the right idea. And also I did a fair report on a company called Hungry, and they're essentially a ghost kitchen with 1 million different kitchens under one roof.
Oh,
and they just got a ton of funding. And his do not to do was, don't keep a secret about your business. People think, oh, they have this idea that's fabulous and someone's going to steal it. Nobody's going to steal your idea.
I always say, I say, here, take my idea. I hope you have a lot of money and time to go handle this thing.
No one is going to steal your idea. I think early on, I kind of worked under that idea. So the idea is, just to talk to everybody, and this is what you're doing. You may there might be a person who's looking to do the same thing. It could be a team member. There may be a person who has some ideas for you. There may be a person that could be potentially an advisor. So so don't keep it secret about your idea, I think would be the best, Yeah, no, I like that advice quite a bit. Okay, so I have some questions coming in here on my phone. So, all right. So, what is the incubator process of 37 Angels for very new entrepreneurs? We don't have an incubator ourselves, but there is a lot of them, and there's a whole list. So there's something called an incubator and some called accelerator. I think they're pretty much the same, but people call themselves different things. So you can Google, or you can just go on our site, and there's going to be a lot of lists. So it's a matter of applying to them. Okay, here's a question that I'm going to ask, and then I'm going to go back to these questions because it just dawned on me. Because of my clients that are female executives, are generally successful, and then they're going into something else. So what's for those women that actually are thinking about, I am, but this isn't the future, becoming an investor
in other women's businesses. Who is that type of woman? I mean, how can she think of herself as someone that might potentially become an investor? Like, you told your story, but how do you, I guess, know when you're at the point where you can do that? And, how much time will it take once you decide to do that?
The first thing is the government has not a limit, but there's a bar that you have to be over as far as an investor. And it's pretty high as far as your net worth and so forth, or it's based on 3 things. You can look it up, how to become an investor. The idea is why the government gets involved, because angel investing is super risky. So any kind of investing, but especially angel investing.
Right.
So they want you to have a certain amount of income or net worth. However, they've now got into kind of crowdsourcing in investing. There's something called Seed Vest, and there's a couple other companies that you can invest as, anybody can invest. So kind of democratizing that.
Oh, democratizing rights.
Yeah, so anyone can invest. And that's probably, and that's also a good place to start.
That's very interesting. Seed, you said it was called Seed
Vest.
Seed Vest. Okay. All right. Perfect. That's good. Yeah, I think everybody should take a look. So someone else, can you talk more about the gaming area? I guess you mentioned investing in the gaming area. So what do you mean by that? I guess that's what they're asking.
I personally have not invested in any gaming, but it's a very popular sector. I just saw a pitch on a woman that was doing moisturizers to counter the effects of blue screen.
Really?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, and gaming that. I'm like, really? So I don't.
Interesting,
so
right?
Yeah, I'm not a specialist in gaming, but it's still very popular and still growing, and especially now when people are more time at home.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for answering that. How can a woman think bigger when it comes to enticing investors outside of a financial track of the business? Anything interesting that stood out for you over the years from female investors? Do you understand that question?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I think this is both, men and women. You have to prove, it's, again, I'm coming back to the same things. It's kind of proof of concept. I would only be interested in what, investing in you if you have some kind of traction.
Yeah.
So that's, that's number one. In traction, and then, that people, we really look at teams. Where have they worked? Where have they worked? What is, their education? Not always, but if the teams have to be very strong, because at the end of the day, the product might change, but the founder is not going to change. So that is super important.
Okay, I have another question based off of that. So when you talk about the teams, how should the founder, because look, let's say a company has 50,000 or $100,000 in sales or something, right? Then they come to you, they want to go to the next level. They bootstrap the whole thing. You know what I mean? They've taken it, it's a couple years old, and they're ready for investing. And now they've built a team to support this business, bringing in a team that fills in those functional elements like an operation, CIO, CFO, whatever. So how should the person, the founder of the company, think about incentivizing their team? I mean, if they're just, obviously there's equity, but it's a pre-invested, I don't even think that's the right word, but you know what I mean. So they're not really a growth business yet, but they have people that believe in it and they want them to be part of their team. So what can a founder tell those people to entice them and let them know how they will be involved in this?
So first of all, you have to be super cautious with equity. I've talked to a number of founders where they've given equity because they thought they needed that person and that capability in the organization, and they didn't. So there was like getting out of the equity. So you have to be super, super careful that you should definitely have a lawyer when you're working through these things. But
That's a good point.
yeah, it's generally investing. If they stay longer, they get a piece more of the equity. Is generally how kind of you can keep people involved. And obviously, you have to have a good team and a good place of work and all of those things.
Mm-hmm. And so, what kind of teams are you looking for from just the point of pitch? I mean, are you looking for how big the team, or just,
Not necessarily, because we're very early stage, but generally you want, I mean, it's very kind of obvious, but you want someone who has different capabilities, that there's good synergy. So you're not kind of over, doing the same job, that you kind of have people that have strength in different locations, in different access to the business. I'm trying to think what else we look for. I mean, we do spend a lot of time with the teams, kind of their background and how they work together. We do a lot of questioning around that. How
makes sense.
Because there has to be, obviously it's not going to be all like seamless.
Yeah.
There's going to be difficulties, but from the get-go, that there's good synergy, people working together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The last question I have, because I think we're done with the audience questions for now. But the last question I have is about to go or not to go angel investing. So how long? When do you think a young business is in a good position for growth? You know what I mean? I know it might be a broad question, but that's also a consideration. Should they commit? Should they not commit? Should they get to the next level? And what are the pros and cons?
Yeah, first of all, do you need the money? I mean, sometimes you can kind of bootstrap, that you can get to a position. But if you need, a boost to get you to, we generally look at a 12 to 18 months is the runway that they're raising for that amount of time. And then they'll go to generally a next funding level. So, kind of determining if you need the cash, again, to grow. A lot of times you do,
Yeah.
but that's not always the case.
Okay, got it. All right. Anything you want to share with the Warrior Women business audience in terms of how to connect with you? Anything about 37 Angels? The floor is yours.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Julie Lerner. I recommend you subscribe to my blog, of course. Mm-hmm. And again, 37 Angels has a tremendous amount of resources. And then, you can reach out to me with specific questions and I can try to help. And a lot of times I can try to connect people, to advisors or so forth.
That's really fantastic. Julie, I hope that when COVID ends, hopefully soon, we are having a few events that we're planning for first quarter. So hopefully you can come out and meet some people.
Terrific.
COVID friendly. So I want to thank you. A couple of closing mentions. So first I want to thank Julie, and I'm going to do a quick recap. So if you are a female entrepreneur that seems like been in business for at least a little while and has good traction, possibly a good team and a great idea with some market demand, you may be in a position to work with 37 Angels. So 37angels.com, right? Is the site to take a look. I actually went there for my client, and they have a ton of really great information and also like an entire simple to follow process.
And again, there's a ton of angel groups, ones that we invest in male and female owned companies, but there's a ton that are just female oriented. Yep.
So if you're that, and then if you're also, a lot of the women, especially our coaches, are very successful women that are looking to support more female entrepreneurial businesses like me. And if you're looking, whether it's near term or long term to possibly be an investor, that also seems like an opportunity that you could look into. And then you also mentioned Seedvest as maybe a starting point, right?
To get involved in, it's crowd investing, crowdsourced investing, essentially. So there's different companies and you can read about them.
Okay. Yeah, crowd vesting, which seems like a really smart place to start. And then the most important piece is, the failure report. We'll follow up with everybody in an email so that people can subscribe to the blog, so you can really learn what not to do and get on your way to success. So with all of that being said, a lot of things that we have coming up in Warrior Women in Business that I want to mention. So beginning January 6th, we have our coach, Amanda Parness, which actually ties, I don't know, Julie, if you know Amanda, but she's really smart too. So Amanda is one of our Warrior Women in Business coaches. She comes from a background of investing, and she helps startups through the actual development of their financial projections, like guides them. She takes like a piece of their business as they grow, type of thing. And she helps get them ready. So for investing. So Amanda Parness is going to be walking us through a financial worksheet, which I'm ready to roll on this thing. And so that's very exciting. So that's January 6th. That's in the evening. Then January 13th, we have Mary Yench, who is also involved with Warrior Women in Business. She's been a speaker at many of my events. Super lady. She's also an investor, but she actually helps women through transition, and she uses she comes from a background of innovation with like major companies like J&J. So she uses innovation methods to help women basically reinvent themselves and transition, which is really, really great. That's a lunch and learn. January 20th, Precious Williams, I don't know if you know her, Julie. She is a pitch master. She's like very well known as a pitch Shark Tank. She's won Shark Tank, competitions. So she does pitching. She's fabulous. So she's going to be teaching, the art of the pitch along with me, because I do a lot around social selling. So it's all about social selling and pitching. And nowadays they go together. So we thought, why don't we come together and do this? Because people are pitching online, whether it's an investor pitch or a sales pitch for your business. And then the last thing I want to mention is January 27th, Tina Trevino, who is our fashion coach at Warrior Women in Business, that gave me the quick confidence to launch my own Warrior Women in Business fashion brand, which lights me up and gets me so excited. So she's going to be teaching a class on how to build a fashion brand, and I'm going to be talking about e-commerce and SEO. So to your point, Julie, that they don't start a brand and then fail with that e-commerce brand, because there's so many considerations behind that. I don't even have the time. So we're going to be talking about that. So in January, there's a lot going on. Last thing is in February, we are planning our first 2021 event, which is going to be how to feel like a fashion model for a day. It's going to be very cool in New York City. It's a very limited engagement event with some A-list people, and there'll be more on that on warriorwomenbusiness.com. So we have a lot going on. The knowledge that you transferred today, Julie, is so important for all the female entrepreneurs that I come across, of which I mentioned they're in various stages. So thank you for graciously offering for people to connect with you as well. That's just very generous of you. So I want to thank you again for being on, and happy holidays. Your gift is coming in the mail. Hopefully we have you back on and maybe telling a success story of one of the Warrior Women in Business members maybe going through investing, which would be very cool.
Great, cool.
So thank you so much. And we'll be signing off here, episode 33, Warrior Women in Business, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.